Tonight, our special coverage as the International Court of Justice prepares to hear South Africa's petition against Israel for committing genocide in Gaza. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Aisha Ashraf. Today is the 94th day since Israel started its indiscriminate war on Palestine. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that in the past 24 hours, 126 Palestinians have lost their lives in Israeli attacks. A home in a designated safe zone area near Khan Yunis has been destroyed this morning. The latest Israeli raid on Tulkarem camp in the West Bank has killed 3 Palestinians and has caused significant damage to the local infrastructure. Disturbing video footage shows an Israeli military vehicle running over a Palestinian victim in the camp. The United Nations says Israel's bombardment on central Gaza is hindering the distribution of humanitarian aid. The United Nations General Assembly convened today to discuss the recent U.S. veto of a Security Council resolution. Last month, the U.S. vetoed a resolution for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, blaming Hamas for initiating the conflict. U.S. Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood justified the veto, attributing the conflict to Hamas and demanding the group to stop using civilians as shields. The Israeli army reports that dozens more soldiers have been injured in recent fighting in Gaza. Defense for Children International says Israeli forces have committed a year of genocide last year. Reports show Israeli airstrikes have resulted in the deaths of at least 8,000 Palestinian children in Gaza and 121 in the occupied West Bank and Jerusalem. Rabbis for Ceasefire, a group of Jewish leaders from Israel, North America, and Europe, say it is a moral obligation to save lives in the midst of the conflict. The death toll from Israeli attacks stands at 23,210. 59,100 people have been injured. Israel's revised death toll stands at 1,139. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to avoid causing, quote, further civilian harm in Gaza. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has conveyed to Blinken that increasing pressure on Iran is crucial to prevent further regional escalation. In a southern town in Lebanon, an Israeli airstrike on a vehicle has killed 3 Hezbollah members. On the other hand, Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati says he is ready for talks with Israel on long-term border stability. Reports suggest that Israel and Hamas are in talks over a possible prisoner exchange. US-based Fox News Channel reports Hamas has proposed exchanging 40 Israeli prisoners for 120 Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. The broadcaster reports Israel has rejected the offer. Quoting Israeli media, the broadcaster also claims that the Israeli army knows the whereabouts of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. It says Israel has not acted because Israeli claims Sinwar is using prisoners as human shields. Israel has been publicly searching for Sinwar in the southern Gaza Strip for weeks. Western media sources report Sinwar is in Hamas's tunnels under the city of Khan Yunis. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a stern warning to the Hezbollah militant group. He's cautioning the Lebanese group not to underestimate the Israeli army. Netanyahu says Israel will take all necessary measures to restore security along its border. He says Israel will take the same approach in Lebanon as it has taken in Gaza. This news comes after the killing of senior Hezbollah leader Wassam al-Hassan in an Israeli airstrike. The recent death of Hamas leader Saleh al-Aruri in Beirut and fighting along the Lebanese-Israeli border is leading to concerns of wider regional conflict. So far, Israel has not confirmed its involvement in the killing of al-Aruri. The International Court of Justice is preparing to hear South Africa's petition accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. The first hearing is set for this Thursday and Friday. It is expected the case will drag on for years. South Africa argues that Israel's actions in Gaza are genocidal, intending to destroy a substantial part of the Palestinian population. They seek legally binding rulings from the court. These include declaring Israel in the breach of the Genocide Convention, ordering a cease in hostilities, reparations, and reconstruction. Israel rejects the genocide claim. Instead, it is calling the case, quote, despicable and contemptuous. Meanwhile, another world body, the International Criminal Court, is investigating Israel's war on Palestine. However, its focus is on possible crimes by both Hamas militants and Israeli forces. Harim Khan, prosecutor for the International Criminal Court, says an investigation into possible crimes by Israeli forces and Hamas fighters is a priority for his office. Germany has decided to lift its arms export ban in Saudi Arabia, allowing the sale of Eurofighter Typhoon fighter jets. Germany had imposed arms sales restrictions on the kingdom following the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi was a Saudi journalist and was killed in the Saudi consulate in Turkey in 2018. Since the onset of the Russia-Ukraine war, Germany has been forced to rethink its ban. In the past 2 years, Germany has reduced its reliance on Russian gas and began exporting weapons to active conflict zones like Ukraine. During an official visit to Israel, the German foreign minister cited Saudi Arabia's constructive position on Israel as a reason for the policy change. In the past 2 years, Germany had loosened some of the restrictions on exports to Saudi Arabia, but a block on the sale of Eurofighter jets remained in place. However, the kingdom's neutral stance on Israel's indiscriminate war on Palestine has influenced international dynamics. Saudi Arabia had been exploring closer ties with Israel before the war, but normalization efforts have been put on hold. A poll by a Washington-based pro-Israel think tank shows 96% of Saudi nationals believe Arab countries should cut ties with Israel in response to its war. India's Supreme Court has reinstated life prison sentences for 11 Hindu men who were convicted of raping a Muslim woman during the 2002 religious riots. The court has ordered the convicts to surrender to authorities within 2 weeks. The men had been initially convicted in 2008 for rape and murder. They were released 2 years ago after serving 14 years in prison. The victim, who is now in her 40s, was pregnant when she was brutally gang raped during the communal rioting in Gujarat state. 7 members of her family, including her 3-year-old daughter, lost their lives during the riots. The riots killed nearly 2,000 people, the majority of whom were Muslims. The victim had filed a petition expressing her distress over the convicts' premature release. The 2002 riots continue to be a contentious issue for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was Gujarat's chief minister back then. Demonstrators in Abbotsford, British Columbia are staging a 24-hour protest to raise awareness about the sexualization of children in public schools. The news comes after the demonstrators have been protesting for over 100 days. Despite this, their voice has been ignored by mainstream media and politicians. In order to get a better response to their concerns, activist Kanwaljit Singh and a few others began protesting for 24 hours on Christmas Eve. They are also objecting to the availability of sexually explicit books in school libraries. A select few politicians have shown interest in their concerns. The grassroots group vows to persist. It is planning a rally on January 20th to make their voices heard until change occurs. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.